Well, good day everyone, it's Warren here from NQ Explorers. Today, first in a series of videos on basic prospecting tips. If you're just starting out in the hobby, we'll run through a few of the things that you need to know to get started and find gold. Today I'm going to answer a commonly asked question. I get this question a lot in person and on our website and emails and things. Can you find fine gold in crevices, or placid gold as they say in the US, fine gold here in Australia, with a metal detector? Now this is the million-dollar question. Of course the answer is yes, but it's conditional. And the condition is that it has to be there in enough concentration to provide enough conductivity for the metal detector to return a signal. Now if it's fine gold in a crevice and there might be a lot of it, but it's spread out, because the gold is so small and each individual piece is so low conductive, there won't be enough return signal on the machine and you will not get a signal on a metal detector. Because that's a situation where you crevice and pan. But in certain situations, yes, you will pick up fine gold, especially if there's tiny pickers in it, or it's in such a massive concentration, like a little boil hole, that it will return a signal to a machine. So we're going to look at this issue with both a pulse induction and a VLF machine. Let's get started. Righto, here's a situation you may commonly encounter when you're prospecting in the gold fields. A dry creek bed. Of course this could be also flowing, but that doesn't make any difference as long as you've got a waterproof machine or a waterproof search coil. As you can see, someone's been crevicing and doing a bit of panning and probably high banking when the water's been here. This is the gold fields. There will be fine gold in this creek. Now, if we have a look at where the bedrock crosses the creek, and we find any crevices that are maybe at right angles to the flow, there's a possibility that there's enough fine gold concentrated in there that you'll pick it up with a high-end metal detector. Okay, well I could take all day to find a crevice that contains enough gold for the metal detector to hear. So I'm going to simulate the situation. I've got a gold pan here with some fine gold in it. It's quite a bit of fine gold. It's 1.8 grams, just about 1.79, 1.8 grams, that I've collected from this area with my rocker box. There are some nice pieces in there which would nearly individually be detectable, but together, let's see what they sound like on both the pulse induction and a VLF metal detector. Okay, here's my gold sample that I'm going to use to simulate a crevice full of fine gold. 1.8 grams of beautiful gold there. As you can see, it's quite platy. Now those pieces, some of which appear quite large, are actually quite low conductivity because they're so thin. And gold is only a media conductor to any metal detector. It's in the medium range, and so any very fine stuff at great depth is going to be difficult to detect in any situation, because on a pulse machine the return pulse will decay before it returns to the receive circuit. And even on a high-end VLF you'll struggle with the really tiny stuff unless it's concentrated like that. Now if you find a crevice with 1.8 grams of fine gold in it like that, concentrated like that, you'll definitely hear that with a metal detector. Okay, pulse induction. I've got a Garrett Axiom. I've got a 11-inch monoloop coil on it. And I'll just show you the settings. I've already got my ground balance there. It's 48/25. Fairly mineralised here. I'm in fine gold timing, and my ground track is off. Righto, we're set up. Let's move over to the gold pan and simulate detecting natural fine gold in a rock crevice. No trouble with that at all. You're going to dig that crevice. Listen to that. Now, of course, that's 1.8 grams of gold, so that's quite a return signal to the machine. Now what we'll do next is check it with the VLF machine. I've got a Garrett Goldmaster 24K. See what its response is. And then what we'll do, we'll spread this gold out a little bit in the pan and see what difference that makes to the return signal on the machine, and whether we can still detect it when it's widespread and it's not concentrated in such a little lump there. Okay, VLF demonstration. This is the Garrett Goldmaster 24K. We'll just turn him on. Ground balance. No trouble at all. Now I'll just turn the track lock on, because otherwise the automatic tracking will take out the gold if I get a target there. So I'll turn the track lock on. As you can hear, there's no trouble at all hitting that. Lovely whip on the audio on the 24K. Now this is a double D coil, so obviously different spread of the metal detector's transmission into the ground. Double D, you've got like a blade down the centre, but you can hear it nice and strong on that tip. You can do a DD wiggle if you want to. Now as you can see, I'm probably getting out about 4 inches, 3-4 inches. Any more depth and of course mineralisation is going to affect it. And I've introduced an air gap, obviously, it's just for demonstration purposes, but that proves that that kind of concentration of gold in a crevice would be detectable with either a VLF high-end machine or a high-end pulse machine like the Axiom. Sounds good, doesn't it? You're not going to miss that. Now of course you're going to be wearing headphones when you do actually prospecting. I've got the audio on internal speaker for benefits of the video. That's going to be a lot more distinct in your headphones. Okay, what we'll do now is have a little play with this gold in the pan. We'll spread it out, simulating it being more distributed in a longer crevice, if you like. That will obviously reduce its individual conductivity in certain spots. You may find that now we're going to start to lose the signal because now the gold, even though it's the same amount of gold, because it's spread over a larger area, the return signal on the machine is so low that perhaps the return signal isn't even detected. Let's have a look at that. Okay, we'll just spread him out a bit. As you can see, there's some lovely platey pieces. Now these individually are probably, you could pick them up definitely with the Axiom and the mono in the ideal situation, but let's see what it looks like if we've got this amount of gold. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of fine gold there, but once again, none of it's terribly large. It's very, very small. Obviously, it's only a medium conductive target anyway, and there's air voids right through it. So it's not actually a solid object that a detector's looking for. Okay, we're on the 24K. I haven't changed any ground balance and I've still got the tracking locked. No trouble picking that up. I mean, those little flakes would be detectable, some of them, individually with this machine anyway, because it's at 48 kilohertz, it's a very high frequency machine. It's a very capable gold machine, travels beautifully in this ground, runs silent, you don't miss a target, and you can always tell target from ground. But you're going to dig that, that's repeatable. Now let's try it with the Axiom pulse machine. Okay, obviously no problem with the Axiom either. You're going to dig that crevice. Now, once again, that's quite a bit of gold and it's well spread out. If you've got 2 or 3 flakes in that crevice, you're not going to hear it with the metal detector. You're going to need your crevicing tool and a gold pan and a lot of patience. Okay, let's have a look at this again and we'll see what we've come up with here. Right, well, what have we just demonstrated? Well, we've shown that yes, if the gold's in enough concentration, you can detect it with a metal detector, with a VLF or pulse, fine gold. It has to be in the ideal situation, and of course there's lots of variables here with the mineralisation and moisture content and all sorts of things that are going on naturally. That was just an air test, obviously. But if it's there in enough concentration, and even without large pickers, you can detect it. Now if it's spread too far or there's not enough of it, no you won't. And you have to use your breaker bar and your sluice pan, whatever you're using to prospect with, and you've got to get right down in that bedrock. But the metal detector, other than looking for nuggety gold on the banks and in the creeks, is useful for finding hot spots in the creek, because it also finds all other metals. And all the other metals are generally heavy, and they'll go to those same concentration points where the gold will accumulate, your inside bands and your crevices and downstream of obstacles like boulders and trees. So yes, a metal detector, get a good quality one, VLF or pulse, is a very useful tool looking for fine gold. And we've just demonstrated in a reasonably good situation there, with a good amount of gold, you will find it in a rock crevice naturally, even though they're not nuggets. Well, a critical thing for success in this situation, looking for fine gold with a machine, is to have the machine set up optimally. Whether it's pulse or VLF, know your machine inside out, put the hours in, get it set up for the situation you're in, for the ground you're working, for the particular gold fields you're in. You'll get to know your own gold fields, and you'll know where to go, where to look, and how to set the machine up for the kind of ground that you're searching in. Well, one of the things you've got to consider when you're in the hobby of prospecting in Australia is that Australian prospectors, for many years now, almost 200, have very high skill sets. I'm not just talking about the old timers, obviously they had high skill sets. Gold was easier to find, yes, but they were very good at reading ground and that kind of thing. And so do people these days. But when you talk about electronic prospecting, which has been around a long time now, since the late 60s, Australian prospectors, Australian metal detectorists, have very high skill sets. And they know how to work ground. If you go around behind an experienced operator in this country, you're going to be hard pressed to find gold. If they're on a good machine and they've got experience, they find the gold. So you've got to get yourself to that skill level. And like I said, there's plenty of information online, and there's lots of good prospectors in forums and online that you can get advice from and talk to. But in the end, nothing beats time on the ground and experience. But I think it needs to be said that among the world's prospectors, Australians are very, very good at what they do. And that's why so much gold is found in this country, even to this day. Well, here's a situation you might look at with your machine and run your detector over this. Coil right down close, listen for those bumps in the threshold. We've got this little re-entrant coming through, draining quite a large area actually. And we've got this slaty material that's perpendicular to the flow of the creek. So that is potentially a very good gold trap. As you can see, someone's actually thought the same thing. Why wouldn't they? And they've dug a bit of a hole there and probably panned a few pieces of colour. But this creek gully is worth investigating because the country rock all runs at right angles to the flow of the water. Okay, before we go, a bit of a bonus story here, and I'll link to the video that I'm talking about. Several years ago I was prospecting in the Sierra Nevadas in California on the Feather River with the Garrett crew, and there was a bloke along by the name of Dave. He used an AT Gold VLF machine, and he was detecting the flood benches on the Feather River, which were basically all bedrock and crevices and a lot of gravel deposits, of course. And he found a half-ounce nugget in a crevice. Now, how did he do that? Well, he was wandering along the bedrock with his machine, checking crevices with the AT Gold in all metal mode, true all metal mode. Came to a crevice that someone had worked. There was like the oversize and the gravel where someone had dug out of this crevice, and they'd obviously walked off having either found some fine gold or nothing. We don't know, we'll never know. And he got a signal in the crevice. And right at the bottom of the crevice, rammed into the bottom, and had been there for hundreds of thousands of years, was a half-ounce nugget that looked like I'd spray it like half a pencil, just broken off. It was linear, and it had been rammed in that crack from the forces of nature, because the Feather River gets the snow melt out of the Sierra Nevadas. Massive amounts of water come down that river. And whoever was crevicing, much to their dismay if they ever watched the video, didn't go to the bottom of the crevice. Critical. And there's a half-ounce nugget of gold in it. And there's probably more below that if you kept crevicing. Like I said, those crevices go down a long way, and you think you're in pretty solid bedrock, but if you can break it up, the gold will keep travelling downwards. Anyway, I'll put a link to that video at the top. Bit of a little bit of a bonus at the end of this one if you want a bit more viewing on gold prospecting. I'll do more videos in this series just on basic gold prospecting, where to look, how to look for gold, what to use to look for gold if you're just starting out in the hobby. Well, I hope you found that short video informative. If you want to contact us, you can get us on our website, nqexplorers.com. There's a contact link there. We're also on Facebook, Facebook Messenger, or just comment on the video below, and I definitely will answer any queries or questions. Thanks for watching, and happy fossicking. Bye for now.